Well, we have a quorum, so
Yeah. Are they in the waiting room? Yeah. I could send him a text. Any luck, Alex? Oh, Peter's good. There's Peter. And just Jimmy. Jimmy Ticky.
Peter's on mute, so. So he's looking through this, so that's.
Let's see.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can. Thank you. No Jimmy yet? He did send me a message that he's gonna step away at 7 o'clock.
Maybe I was somewhere.
So, but we do. All right, Alex, when you see him, just give us a heads up so that we know what time to acknowledge that he's joined us, okay? All right, are we recording on YouTube? We're recording on everything now? Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Virginia Harger. I'm chairperson of the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission. Today is Wednesday, September 21st, 2022, and the special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission being conducted in the Shelton City Hall Auditorium via Zoom and through a phone link is hereby called to order at 6:03 p.m. This meeting may be viewed live and remotely on YouTube. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I invite those participating remotely to do the same. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I will do roll call. So please verbally indicate you are present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly,
Present.
Commissioner Lascos,
Present.
Commissioner Motto. Here. Commissioner Ticky. Alternate Commissioner Onofrio.
Present.
Myself, Commissioner Harger. Ms. Castro, our Assistant Planning and Zoning Administrator. Mr. Pianico, our Consultant.
Present.
Ms. Vernassos, our Recording Secretary. And Ms. Charbonneau, our stenographer.
Present.
Okay, that's Stephanie. All right. In the case of Ms. Renasso, she may not be able to speak because she's a little under the weather, but the meeting is being monitored at her home. And she will be able to do the minutes without any problem by referring to what's being recorded, as she has done in the past, and also by looking at YouTube. All right, and for the record, Commissioner Parkins and alternate Commissioner Usall are not available for this evening's meeting, as alternate Commissioner Onofrio, you're being seated for Commissioner Parkins.
Yep.
Okay. Is there somebody else that joined us? Okay, I got a message that Commissioner Ticky's having trouble logging in. All right, so there's a couple points before continuing with today's agenda. Ms. Castro will act as the Zoom meeting host. Commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, and the chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized to make sure we're not all speaking over each other, and to make sure our recording secretary and stenographer are clear as to who is speaking. This evening, we are going to be opening 2 public hearings, and this is the protocol for each. Ms. Castro will indicate if any written comments were received from members of the public no later than 24 hours before the start of this evening's meeting to be read into the record. The applicant and/or its associates will make their presentation. Then the commission can ask questions during the presentation or at its conclusion. The applicant and/or associates can answer the commission's questions at the time they are presented or at the conclusion of the presentation. The public will be recognized to comment on the application. The applicant's attorney and/or associates will be given the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public after the last person from the public has been given the opportunity to speak. Members of the public who are here in the auditorium, if you're interested in commenting on either public hearing, there are 2 sign-up sheets over here on the side table. If the commission feels further information is needed from the applicant, the chair will ask for a motion to continue the public hearing. If a public hearing does remain open, the commission is not allowed to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's and/or his associate's presentation, or receive any additional information from anyone. If the commission feels the applicant and/or his associates have answered all questions and have addressed all concerns from the commission and/or public, the chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Staff will then schedule a discussion about the application at an upcoming commission meeting, during which time the commission will be asked by the chair on how it wants to proceed. And I'd also like to share the guidelines for members of the public who choose to speak at the point in the public hearing when the chair calls for public comment. To identify yourself as a member of the public who wishes to speak, and if you are participating remotely via Zoom, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature. If you are participating via a phone link, dial *9. After you are identified by Ms. Castro to the chair, and I recognize person of the public, please state and spell your name and your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when they are preparing the minutes and the transcript of the public hearing. Please direct your comments and questions to the chair and to the chair only, not to the applicant and/or his associates. Comments for the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations, the merits of the application, and be new information, not a repeat of comments previously presented. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. Commissioner Amato, would you please read the legal notice for the first public hearing?
Sure. Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Shelton, Connecticut hereby gives notice of a public hearing to be held on Wednesday, September 21, 2022 at 6 o'clock via Zoom and at City Hall to consider the following. Initiation of application 22-17, Dominic Thomas for Langetti's Landing LLC at 1055 Bridgeport Avenue, map 2, lot 8, on 1.7 acres, zone PDD number 91. For initial development plan approval for 62 apartments, 77 initial on-site parking spaces, and 16 deferred and installed as needed. The property is generally bounded as follows: northerly by 1001 Bridgeport Avenue, easterly by Bridgeport Avenue, southerly by 1077 Bridgeport Avenue, and westerly by Huntington Street.
Okay. And I just want to acknowledge for the record that Commissioner Ticky is here with us as on Zoom. At what? At 6:04? No, everybody, Commissioner Parkins was not available to join us tonight. Everyone else is accounted for. And Commissioner Usel was not able to. All right, so there's the legal notice. This application was accepted for review on June 14th of this year, posted on the city's website. Is the PDD zone change and special exception application, statement of uses and standards amendment, site plan, elevations, renderings, floor plan, and a traffic study. And Ms. Castro did acknowledge to me that a email came in yesterday before the 24-hour period. So I can acknowledge it for the record. And I will, that it's here, and I will read it during the public portion. Mr. Castro, no other reports, materials, or items that we need to acknowledge?
Not for 24.
Okay. All right. Is the applicant present? Okay. So why don't you come up with your team and have a seat, identify yourself for the record, and proceed.
Okay, I'll start. Good evening, Madam Chair and other members.
Mhm.
My name is John Paoletti. I'm the owner and builder for this, hopefully this project coming up. I reside at 306 Buddington Road here in Shelton. My company is based on building.
Mhm.
Before I turn it over to Dominic, I just want to clarify one thing.
Sure.
There must have been a typo.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
On the legal notice, it said this was application 2213. It's application 2217.
Yeah, and that's correct. And
Mhm.
also for the parking, we have 106 parking spaces
Correct.
with 16 deferred. So we have 122 spaces for the 62 units, which is just shy of 2 spaces per unit.
Mhm.
With that
So-
being said, I'll turn it over to Attorney Dominic for the
Okay.
presentation, along with Alan Shepherd.
All right, I see Attorney Thomas participating remotely. So good evening, Attorney Thomas.
Good evening, Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen & Thomas, 315 Main Street, Durban, Connecticut, representing the applicant. John corrected some of the issues in the agenda and the notice. The other thing I would like to correct that was said is this is an application for an amendment to the PDD. There's no special exception application that's part of this application. It's just simply for an amendment to the initial development concept plans and an amendment to the statement of uses and standards. That's the substance of the application. PDD 99 was approved by you about a year and a half ago and was approved for a gas station, convenience store with retail and office in the back. This was on the site of the former the site of the Langetti's landing, Langetti's florist. Okay. This is a proposal for 62 apartments. As you were told by the property owner, John Paoletti, the principal of Langetti's Landing LLC. There will be 62 apartments in the proposal with on-site parking. The parking has been computed in accordance with the parking standard in the amended statement of uses and standards. And the parking standard in the amended statement of uses and standards tracks your regulation in section 42 for parking. And broken down for this proposal, it's the first 5 1 and 2 bedrooms is two spaces per unit. The amount over that is 1.5 spaces per unit. There are 44 1 and 2 bedroom units being proposed, and that total, I believe, comes to 72. I'm sorry, to that total plus the studios at 1.25 comes to a total of 72 parking spaces, followed by 31 spaces for the visitors, which gives a total of 103 as your base. Obviously, we're providing more, plus we have reserved parking on site. Now, the change of use and why the change of use? Well, the client, after the approval, at the location in between the entrance and exit of exit 11 on Route 8, there is certainly a good amount of traffic generated here, but in talking to prospective national companies to be able to go on the site as a tenant and produce the high quality that is normally required for Shelton PDDs, and especially along Bridgeport Avenue in this area, there was less emphasis or less interest by some of the nationals. But at the same time, dealing with issues that we know we're all confronting, which is the extreme lack of housing supply, and given its location right at an exit, plus a bus stop right in front, the site for apartments seemed very well to fit, because you have both the ability to have tenants that need to get access Route 8 immediately, not generating traffic along Bridgeport Avenue. And in addition to that, you have people that want to take the bus either to work at the corporate towers or other places in Shelton. But in addition to that, you got to remember that shortly after this bus stop traveling south, and there are plenty of greater Bridgeport Transit Authority buses, they go right down to the train station. So its accessibility for public transit is very good. There is, by the way, a very substantial reduction in the traffic as opposed to the other proposal. And on your website and submitted here, if Alexandra can allow me to screen share. Okay, I don't know, can you see this?
Coming. There it is.
Okay, so this is what it's on the your website. We submitted it. It's done by Craig Janney, who did the original traffic study. And what it is a comparison of the traffic for 60 residential units, peak hour, morning and afternoon, and the previously approved gas station, retail, and office space from his traffic report. And as you can see, looking at it, you can see the numbers. There is substantially less. I mean, you're talking about 22 in the weekday morning, 24 in the weekday afternoon for the apartments. And you're talking about during that same peak period, weekday morning, 130 and 138. So there's 108 less traffic. And we're talking, substantially less traffic, 75, 80% less traffic being generated from the apartments. As you've often heard me say, when you have apartments, there's no requirement in the lease that everybody sets their alarm clock for the same time in the morning to get up and nobody marches out. It is a very even flow over that time period. And for these 62 apartments, the impact is substantially less. And the report, again, that's on your website and was submitted, goes on to do site-generated traffic and an analysis and do the further comparisons during the peak hour, as was found in the report. This was in the original report at the bottom. So we've given you what we presented before, so you see the full picture, but also the comparison, and it does substantially reduce the traffic. In addition to that, there is less concern, and as you remember, those of you that were sitting at the time, as you remember, there was what I feel is an overabundance of concern over the issue of environmental impacts. If you remember, Alan Shepard addressed it excellently, explaining all the precautions and everything that would be taken for a gas station, all the protections for any spills and anything like that. Well, those concerns are eliminated when you're going with the apartment proposal. In addition to that, and I think Alan will address this, you're going to find there's less drainage. And I do want to point out, and I can screen share with you, and I know there's some concern. I don't know if it was one of the documents submitted today, but I received a copy of a document from the Beaver Dam group from an engineer that talked about certain things that weren't shown on the plans. And I do want to emphasize that the plans we've submitted to you are initial concept development plans. We are not asking at this point for final site development plans, and much of the drainage, much of the points that were put in that email, if it was submitted, or that report, if it was submitted by the engineer, would be addressed at the final site development plan stage. But the other thing I need to point out about the drainage, and I have the exhibits from the previous thing, is that we showed you at that time what the watershed was that goes into Beaver Dam Lake. We showed you that the drainage all along Bridgeport Avenue, this site and the area going down approximately to the veterinary clinic in that area, the on-site veterinary, that is the watershed for it. And it all drains into the Route 8 system. The Route 8 system, and I was able to show to you at that time that there are 9 catch basins that are just in the general area of 1055 Bridgeport Avenue. And those 9 catch basins then drain into some form of a rain garden to protect the things. But those 9 catch basins, the state has never upgraded them to modern plans. It's not our client's responsibility or anything. It is something that if there's a concern on Beaver Dam, and there should be, that they really need to work with the state, again, to upgrade the drainage in Route 8, because that's the impact. And the final point I'll make is, because it's your requirement in considering applications, you must consider the tax base. And I'm just going to give you an example that I did. Anybody can do it. You can go online and look at your assessor's records. So what I did, this is a 62-unit apartment. What I did, to be conservative in looking at it, is I compared, to some extent, the Kelly Mart off of exit 12, which is a good-sized convenience store, not as big as what was being proposed, and didn't have the other stuff. And if you took the Kelly Mart and you looked at its full appraised value and you doubled it for the other equipment, that appraised value, or let's say not doubled it, but let's say brought it up 150%, that appraised value would go from 800 and something thousand to about 1.2 million for the appraised value for tax purposes, and then 70% of that. If you look at the apartments, I think I'm not sure if they're called Blakeman Commons, the 28 apartments you approved on Old Bridgeport Avenue that are up and operational, their appraised value, that's only 28 apartments, their appraised value is 5.6 million. So you can tell that clearly what you're talking about is a substantial very substantial boost in the tax base by these apartments. So with that summary, I will turn it over to Alan for the to discuss the site plan, and then we can come back to the elevations at a later point. And I will start screen sharing so Alan can, I got to find my, whoop, here we go. Okay, and then let me, okay, I don't know if Alan, you can see that on the screen, but I have the first page of the site plan set up.
If you can go to the grading plan, comic, I think that'd be the most helpful. For the record, it's Alan Shepard, professional engineer and partner in the firm of Nowakowski, Obeem, John Kane, 415 Howe Avenue, Shelton, Connecticut. And what we have before you is the preliminary plan. Dominic was great to point that out. If we were so lucky to get the approval, we would have the detailed plans, would have more of the elevations and stuff like that for the drainage. But what I would talk about the drainage is that we will store two inches of
Sorry.
rainfall.
Sorry about that. Just a minute. I had a glitch on my computer.
Well, I can still keep on talking.
Mhm.
The 2 inches of rainfall, whereas the state guidelines and recommendations is 1 inch, you can get 95% of the pollutants on. In Shelton, we store 2 for the commercial buildings, so that's above and beyond the state. So if you're taking care of 95% of the pollutants, with 1 inch, we got 2 inch here. Plus the soil out there is fairly good sandy soil. It's not sand and gravel, but it's good absorption for recharge. That's better treatment for water to get down into the groundwater table, because slowly it'll filter through the soil and get to the out to the drainage system. So the way we have it set up, this is recharge is better in my mind than detention. And you've heard about stormwater detention on those shares. And I've been saying this for years, you know, that recharge is better, and the town does let you do recharge. So the drainage system, I've designed many of them over the 40 years that I've been working down here. I'll have meeting all the requirements. I'm not worried about that. The grading for this property is pretty benign also. So we are at, you know, in the road, we're at 308. The garage is probably going to be at 3, and dimension on the site plan. We got the parking spaces underneath, which the 29 parking spaces. So when they count the parking spaces, they're counting the ones outside. We will have garage under. That will be at about the 310 elevation. The first floor, that puts our first floor up at 314. If you look at the southerly side of the building, that contour is 316, where our front door would be. So it works out that our grade in front of the front door is about 316, where you know, we'll be at that elevation for our first door. So the grading here is minimum at best, way less than what, you know, a lot of sites have done. And you guys know the property pretty well. It's gently graded, you know, just enough contour that we can achieve what we want to do without any kind of massive grading. I want to point out this, Dominic spoke pretty eloquently, better than I can do it, but the consideration of being on a bus line next to an exit, I think it warrants to at least take a look at this application, because right now, like the applicant has said, the interest in gas stations is waned a little bit over the last couple of years. I don't know how that's going to happen, how that's going to play out in the next 5 or 10 years. But right now, the interest that he's getting is not on the high-level gas station corporations that we wanted to go in there that we were talking to originally. So there's lesser players, if you will. So this does have, so to get the good features, you like the high-end gas stations. But this is an option. The applicant would be willing to put in a bus stop and improve the bus stop out there. I see people that go from the residence in, not to use the bus station, there's no cover, there's no anything. So with this application, so be it, it's on the town property, so there's strip of land out in front here, there's town property. But we could pull that back, put in a covered canopy that the applicant would pay for, and actually provide a better off parking bus stop than right in front of the residence inn. That opens up the bus access for the application. We have close to 2 parking spaces per unit, which is, as I've long said, that we need more than 1. But we also have access to the bus station, which works out pretty good. So I mean, we're asking for deferred parking because I don't think we'll need it, but we have it in case we need it.
So do you have 2 plus deferred parking or? is
No,
it
it's with the
two
deferred
with-
parking, it's 1.9.
okay.
So we have it there in case we need it, which is, you know, how I feel about housing.
Where would that be?
It is on the northerly side, it's right along this strip, so it is
The deferred parking is.
all along this. So that we could open that up easily if we need it.
Okay.
And here's
On this.
here's how I feel about these apartment buildings, that if you can get the parking on site, then that's a less risk. We can talk about 1.5 or 1.75. If you can show close to 2 on site, you're in good shape. Doesn't mean that you gotta build it, but it should show it on site.
Mhm.
Because what's the risk factor? The risk factor is you don't rent it out to people with 2 cars, or they park in the street somewhere, or they park in the neighbor's property. So, and I say this to Shelton, I say it to every town I work in, parking is still golden, you know. My kids can't afford $2,000 a month in rent without 2 people working. So parking is key in my mind. And here we can have the parking. Plus, it's good to have a little bit of the housing spread up. I like I'm downtown, I like the downtown. But I like the idea of also having some of the apartment units spread out the town in a few spots. So, you know, here's a good spot right at the highway. That's about it.
Okay. Who's next, Attorney Thomas?
Excuse me?
Mr. Shepherd's finished. and-
Okay, yeah, I just want to point out a couple of things. I assume you can see the screen share and the deferred parking, but one of the other changes, I don't know if, when I was I had a computer problem. The other proposal, of course, had an entrance to Huntington Street. This proposal has no entrance from Huntington Street. It just has the wide entrance here, and it has no entrance to Huntington Street, which was a concern with some people. Certainly, there is the availability of, still, and Alan can comment on the grades, but the grades are pretty flat. So for emergency vehicles to enter, that could certainly be taken care of if it were necessary. But that eliminates the cut-through issue that was discussed in the prior proposal. And the bus canopy is down here. So with that, if Alan is finished, are there any questions for Alan on the site plan?
It's on.
What about the florist? Is that gone? in this
Yeah.
proposal?
Yeah, at this time, the florists, they're gonna relocate to another area in
So
Shelton.
they've already planned that.
Yeah.
So if there are no more questions, I can go to the elevations. And these are the elevations that are being proposed. This is concept elevations from the architect, but this is after some discussions, that were had in the work sessions and two different proposals being made. This is the final type of building and type of architecture that is being proposed. This is the front, which would be the southwest elevation, the entrance door and everything, as Alan talked. This would be looking from the adjacent office building in that area there. This would be the rear elevation. In other words, the elevation facing the Residence Inn. This would be the front and side facing Huntington Street. So what, if you were driving down Huntington Street, subject to the landscaping, what you would see. And this is the rear and side facing Huntington Street, if you were coming the other way on Huntington Street. And finally, this is the rear and side facing Bridgeport Avenue, if you were driving up Bridgeport Avenue. And again, the intent is to, again, we're coming in for final site development plans. We could have much more detail on the type of materials that are being used. But I think that the applicant's been working with an architect that you're used to, who has produced very high quality material. So are there any questions on the elevations?
How did you, maybe the applicant can address how he arrived at the unit count? How many floors?
Sure. We have proposed 4 floors. We have a total of 62 units proposed at this time.
Mhm.
We have 16 2-bedrooms, 28 1-bedroom, and 18 studios.
Do we know the square footage of each one? Two-bedroom and one-bedroom?
The 2-bedrooms are average 900 to 1,000 square feet.
Excuse me, here's the floor plan. I'm sorry, I should have gone to that also.
Yeah, but there's no square footage on it, that's right.
It's written in, it's tiny, Charlie, but it is up there.
Uh,
The 2-bedrooms
the-
are 900 to 1,000.
Oh, okay, I see.
The 1-bedrooms average about 700, 725.
Okay.
And the studios are
480.
480, yeah, in that range. Some are, there's a couple on each floor that are a little bit bigger in studios.
610 studio.
Yeah, and we're proposing a fitness center as well as an office space study type as well.
That would be a communal office.
Yeah,
First and second floor, right?
yeah.
Depending on the floor.
What is the height of the building?
The height of the building is approximately 56 feet, something in that range.
Is that to the lower, not to the peak?
That's to the peak, in
It is
that
to the
range,
peak.
yeah, 56, maybe 57 in that range, depending upon the pitch.
Do you have any drawings of how it looks from the street, from both streets?
Right.
Yeah, we do actually. Dominic, can you go back to that?
I'm sorry, sure, which one?
Right up to the street, or what is the,
Oh, okay.
like from the road?
From the road, the closest parking we have is that little section to the right coming in from Bridgeport Avenue, but we have the, pretty good buffer from with the piece that the city owns in the front.
Can you show us
Are
the
you-
opposite side of the building?
I'm sorry, okay.
Can you show us the opposite side?
The Huntington Street side,
Yes.
I don't know why I took that.
here's the rear side facing Huntington would be, this would be facing Huntington.
Yeah, but I want to see the opposite to what you're showing me. The
Okay,
opposite big wall.
hold on, let me get the right one.
Okay,
Front and side facing Huntington.
okay. Now, why is there a difference in siding treatment between these two views? You notice
Pretty observant, Tony.
immediately left and right of the projected area where the entrance is. It's
Yeah.
typical siding like the rest of the building. If you Go
Yeah,
back to the
no.
other view. Go back to the other view. And see the stonework? Whoops.
It's,
You see the
That was,
stonework now?
that was an oversight. When we did the elevations, there's gonna be stone on the front and back, so they'll look identical from the front and back.
Okay.
Yep. was wondering if you were gonna pick that up.
He doesn't miss much.
Actually, that was a test by John to make sure you were really looking at everything.
You don't think we do?
You have for many years, Tony.
You gotta get up really early to,
Yeah,
to put
most
one
of the
over
material
down.
we're gonna be using is gonna be cedar impressions. Vinyl will be AZAC, the decks will probably be Trex decking, and then we'll have the stone facade on the fronts and the back.
Is there any, can we talk a little bit about the elevations again? Is there anything that can be done to kind of play down the height of the building?
Actually, I'll let Alan comment on this as well, but this rendering is conceptual. And what Alan talked about in the beginning, that building is actually gonna sit lower, correct, Al? And,
And I'll explain that.
yeah, it's gonna-
Well, we don't have any architectural, so we can't tell
No,
what heights
right.
are where.
Towards the entranceway where we have the entranceway right now, you are up at a little higher elevation, so that will be in the front of the building. So where you see the fencing down below on this elevation, you'll see some of that from Bridgeport Avenue, but towards the front of the building, that will be more at grade, so that gap there won't be there. Now, towards the back of the property, I do have the garage under, so I have, that's gonna be one corner of the building's gonna be an additional 12 feet or so in height that you will come in. But we also have the buffering strip, we have a good strip in the town property in front that we can buffer that up a little bit. So it's not like it's right on the road.
Well,
That-
my main concern would be the impression of it driving down Huntington Street.
And you have an office building on one side and the residence in on the other side. From the
you're-
office,
What you're
Yep.
showing here right now is what you would see driving north on
Bridge-
Huntington Street.
Right, after you pass the office building, we did in a work session, we did a height comparison. And this, I think, it's pretty much at the same level, if not a little shorter than the office building, or around the same height as the office building that abuts it,
Yeah, I don't think the
Probably
office.
At their highest point.
High.
at their highest point, yeah. And remember, initially, when we proposed, we brought in two different proposals. One was a little bit more modernistic with a flat roof with gables, and I think the preference was to go
Yes,
with
gable roofs.
the gabled roofs, which does, increase the height, but also fits in more with the residential look.
Can we go back to the site plan?
Sure.
One of the concerns that's bothering me a little bit is there's one point on the Huntington Street frontage where the green space is very narrow, right at the corner there. And I was hoping maybe we can come up with a way of increasing that. And also, I was wondering if Al looked at rotating this building so it paralleled the north property line instead of the south property line. If that, is taking that corner of the building and pulling it away from Huntington Street a little bit by rotating it.
yeah, I don't know if I have any preference. It's up to the town what they want, so. I picked one side to line it to, engineers like to line things up with a property line, so I picked the,
Tony, are you talking about putting it at this angle, you mean, to go along? with
Yeah,
this
in other
angle?
words, instead of it being parallel to the Huntington Point property line, make it parallel to the
Residence in?
residence ends.
northern
That
side.
shows there.
Well, wouldn't that impact parking?
Pardon me? I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Was it tested? You got to look at what the impact would be.
Yeah,
I don't know what it would be.
Well, I mean, I don't mean to purport to be the engineer, but I would think it would impact the deferred parking.
Oh, maybe it gets pushed to a different location.
So it'd be this way.
More on an
More,
angle.
more parallel with that,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
there.
this is the line with the residence in and this is a residence back here. And this is the residence in.
Isn't the only
Obviously,
drawing-
you can see we're proposing a good buffer along the area where the residents, but there is also a substantial buffer and residents. And I think Mr. Paoletti has talked to the people who live in that property.
Yeah, and I think that's worthwhile to point out that see the northerly side of the property, by having it lined up with the southerly side, I get more buffer on the northerly side where we have residences.
Mhm.
So that, now, as far as the Huntington Street views, we can put some planting or types of trees that along Huntington Street. There's some out there right now, but we can break that up a little bit, with tree planting. I could pull the buffer away from the building, put the driveway a little closer and give some more trees along there.
Okay.
That's, if that works.
Commissioner Kelly, did you have a question?
I did. I think that showed on the initial site plan of angling it north.
Mhm. Yeah, the one that's dated February 15th
Exactly, right.
shows it
It's
lining up
parallel
with the
Yeah.
northern and bottom line. Yeah.
All right.
I thought we
I
talked
do,
about-
I do need to point out the initial site plan and the stuff that was submitted for the work session was not submitted by us and was not put online by us. So obviously, what's supposed to be online is what is presented as part of the application. And I do want to make it clear that obviously the commission can look at because it was eventually submitted, but we did not submit it as part of the application.
Mhm. Yeah, well, what is online is the one I have in my hand, which is May 26th of this year.
Right.
And that
That's
shows the-
this one here.
Exactly. Okay. Could you speak to the driveway entrance? Are you crossing any city property or is there some kind of?
Yes, but I'll show up again for the record. There is a parcel of land that's excess street property on Bridgeport Avenue. The applicant did try to buy that from the city and they refrained from that for the time being, but there is a good strip of land, more than a 10-foot shoulder that's in front of the property. We did look to purchase it, but they were
Yeah.
not inclined to do that at this time. So, but they did say we can plant thing there, so that's, if we maintain the planting, we can plant in there.
But
Yeah,
does the
I-
driveway
I-
cross onto city property, over city property?
It is not
It's right
city,
away.
it
Still
is-
town
Not
right
it
away.
is-
right away.
It is not city property. It is not city property as in
Access right away.
city-owned property. It's right of way. It's highway right of way. And we went over this before, for some reason, and I was able to figure out after that, the Route 7, Connecticut DOT Route 714 ends, the jurisdiction of the state DOT ends about at exit where the current exit 11 comes in. For those of you, because you're all much younger than me, I can remember going down Bridgeport Avenue and going all the way to my aunt's house in Bridgeport. And before Route 8, at that point, Bridgeport Avenue sort of veered to the left and went right over towards connected to Huntington Turnpike. And that's how I got to my aunt's house. At that point, the road was changed when Route 8 was put in, and apparently the state ended its jurisdiction at that point. So Bridgeport Avenue from this point to the Trumbull line is a city street. This is part of right-of-way. What is very interesting, if you look at the screen, the property line for the Residence Inn is here. So the Residence Inn or somebody, the city or somebody sold property to the Residence Inn because their property line is here. Then the property line goes down this way, very deep into Land Yankees. Then it goes across here. Then it picks up here. also with a much narrower, because of the shape. So this is right of way. And in right of way, when you have right of way to a public road, any property that abuts it has the right to access it, subject only to safety issues. And so this location here is the approximate location of where and Alan can comment on this, of where the driveway was approved for PDD 99. But I believe the driveway that was approved for PD 99 in this location was wider. Am I correct, Alan?
Correct.
Yeah. And then there was a driveway down here that became an issue with the city. And there was a driveway, of course, in the back, all of them over town right of way.
Correct.
Okay, on that particular
While
site,
we're talking about access, since this is the only connection serving the entire building, is it possible to improve that curb cut by a median divider?
Mr.
Yeah.
Shepherd?
I don't see a problem with that.
All right.
One other question, Tony, I have a question. Do you need two access, do you need emergency access someplace else other than the front? And where would that be?
The only other place you could have it is in the back.
Yeah.
Huntington Street, and I think that's something we'd rather avoid.
Is that code or what?
No, it's not code, but certainly,
Every
again,
other
if
complex
you,
has it, that's why I'm asking.
yeah. It's not a code thing. If you widen the main entrance, you then avoid the issue. But, and Alan, you can comment on this. In addition to that, certainly the elevations from the road through the accessing the property could result in the ability of an area to be left where if it were totally blocked, the fire truck could go right through the grass and onto the property. Am I not correct, Alan?
That is correct.
Right.
Grade wise, we can easily put a connection there.
Yeah.
We chose to leave it off, not to rile people up as far as the connection.
If we,
That's
if
a
we,
nice thing
if we
about this.
avoid the connection to Huntington Street, you take out all the threats of shortcutting.
Right.
Right, so we took it off the plan. Obviously, for the fire department stuff, they'll comment on it, but, they can easily get access to the building. It's not like we got a cliff there or rise there where they can't get there. They probably would not park their fire truck up close to the building anyway. They'd run hoses in. But if the town felt that they want emergency access way with a gate breakaway lock, we have the grades that can do it. We could put it in there.
Right, well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, we can easily do it.
That's what.
And as long as everybody knows, it would be gated and it's not part of our application because we want to minimize the connection.
Yeah.
Has the fire marshal weighed in on this?
No.
We have received no reports, fire marshal or engineer.
Okay.
Oh,
Commissioner Nafriel?
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Harger. My other concern too, and I understand the thought about the cut through and trying to eliminate that, but I think there's some creative solutions to avoid that for tenants. And given that the volume of traffic that's accessing the site's much less now with this being an apartment, proposed apartment. My concern as a potential tenant would be accessing the property from Bridgeport Avenue on taking a left into the property and taking a left out of the property. Because even currently today, out of Langanke's, it's very difficult to take a left safely out of that parking lot. Same with Residence Inn. Coming down Bridgeport Avenue to take a left into the property, there is a little bit of space on the right for people to bypass. So I would think as a tenant, perhaps we might want access from Huntington from a safety perspective. And it would eliminate that concern from a safety perspective, in my opinion, on people, because otherwise they're gonna have to do a loop around that intersection of Bridgeport Avenue, Huntington, and the access to Route 8, right? Coming from either direction, they're gonna have to go all the way around the property, cause a bottleneck on Bridgeport Avenue in either direction, depending on which way they're going.
Yeah,
That's
a
what that
lot
would
of
be.
that. Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I thought your question was over.
It's fine. It's just a comment more than a question.
Yeah.
I think there's creative solutions for people to avoid people using it as a cut through.
A lot of that was addressed in the extensive, even though we had the Huntington Street thing about the issues of left-hand turns and everything. A lot of that was addressed in the more heavily trafficked approval for the gas station and convenience store. And there is, and I know they addressed the issue of bypass lanes. There's a pretty good amount of width. There are times of the day when there are backups, but there are many times in the day when there are no backups. And plus the fact, I think if you review that report, which is part of the record of the previous PDD, you will see that even the lights that exist create blocks. But I think that one of the reactions was there was a much greater concern to the people cutting through.
Right.
And the fact that a tenant is slightly inconvenienced by having to drive around and come back down in weighing it, that is one of the reasons why we opted to eliminate the Huntington Street.
If you put an entrance exit from Huntington Street, then you better offset the two. You cannot have a straight shot through like we have.
Mhm.
So if
Well,
you
that was
want
one
to
of the
pull it in
problems.
at the skinny part, you have to move the main entrance, or you have to put the connection to Huntington Street on the diagonally opposite corner.
Mhm. Right. Okay, maybe the applicant could discuss a couple things I see on the site plan, and you have a proposed sidewalk.
Yes,
Yes,
we are proposing sidewalks in front of the property. Also connecting sidewalk to that from our property down to the street level. We're also proposing to move the bus stop in front of the resident inn more into that property, that excess property that town has, the street right away.
Where it says bus canopy.
Yep, where we're gonna put the canopy. And what that will do is, and I sat out there and watched the people get out there, they do use that bus stop in the rain and everything else like that. Looks like a lot of them are going to work and using it for work type of thing.
Alan, why can't that sidewalk go straight through instead of bumping out towards the
Oh, because I want to pull
Where have you-
bus,
pavement?
I want to pull the
Bus
bus
pull
stop over where we have a little bit more room, so it's not crowded with the residents in. So when the bus is there, you can't see out of the resident in when they're pulling out. So this makes it a safer, improved process to pull it away from the resident in driveway. So because we have more room there, and look at if we're gonna do a residence building, and there's something that the developer can do to improve the situation there. And it's not that costly to do that. And it enhances our property because the bus stop right where they got it is a little awkward. If we can bring that out, pull it in.
Where is it now, Al?
It's right in front of the resident in driveway. See the bus
Right
stop
down.
sign?
Over there?
They
Okay.
stop right here. And when the bus,
Oh,
you can't. see out of the resident in. So I think that's not a great situation. So, and I've sat out there and watched people, they probably think I'm nuts, but the engineers do funny things. And, you watch the people get on there and it clutters the bus, people pulling out of the resident in because you got a bus sitting there, right? If I could pull that more away from that driveway entrance and pull it off, give it a proper offset from the road, plus a canopy there, now it's much more usable for the people who use it right now, and I think it's an asset to our project. So it's really, it's a plus all the way around, I think.
Is it
So
necessary?
the way
to
you've shown it
continue
is the
to-
way you prefer doing it.
Yes.
right.
Okay.
I mean, there
And
would
is
be
it
this,
necess-
yeah, the road widening would have to be approved by the town engineer because you're widening the pavement here for a bus pull-off area.
But I
As
think
well
it's,
as well as the canopy, wouldn't it?
yes, But I think when you get the safety issue there, I think any engineer will tell you, if I can move that away from the driveway, that's a good thing.
What's the reason that the sidewalk is going to swing out back towards the road where it's a sanitary sewer line? Is there a reason? why it's-
No,
But that's what I started asking. Why
Oh,
can't you
yeah.
just keep going
I get-
straight?
people say, I've been told I'm not whimsical enough, so I guess I was trying to be whimsical, but engineers like straight lines. I would rather be straight, so I was.
Where's, have you gone as far as proposed garbage pickup?
We were, it was gonna be,
Yeah, the garbage disposal is in the building.
in the building.
It's underneath.
Okay,
That's
so
what
you
we're
have a
doing
chute
now.
system
Yes, we do.
from, on each floor?
Yes.
Okay, so the central drop-off point that goes down.
On each floor, there's a central drop-off point.
And then what were you proposing? It was a truck coming in, backing up and or,
Yep. No, truck comes into the building, right into the compactor and picks it up from there.
okay.
Getting back to that sidewalk, the way it is now, you also run the possibility of snowplows obstructing that corner. Being so close to the travel way,
You're talking about this corner right here?
right there, yeah.
Yeah, I can move that out.
Okay.
I see it, you try something different, you get
Yeah.
criticized.
Alan, you can be whimsical by going this way,
Okay.
okay?
What about electric vehicle charging stations? Have you thought about those? We have
What was that, Jenny?
electric vehicle charging stations. We have had previous applicants and other proposals.
They would be best located, I would think, in the interior.
Mhm.
We got the garage, we
Underneath,
can
yeah.
do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm not opposed to that.
yeah. I've been in a couple of, actually, I've been in a couple of both hotels and one apartment building where where they had interior parking and they had charging stations. And actually they increased their parking by doing tandem parking. Now, this is a situation where people, the people knew each other, that they were together, but they actually had charging stations against the wall and created another space in front of them. And, but I think that they're more likely, probably best in this type of situation to be inside.
I agree.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments, questions, or concerns for the applicant? Mr. Panico, how about you?
I think I touched base. Let's see.
I'd recommend to the commission that we leave this public hearing open only because of the fact that our administrator, Mr. Rossetti, was not able to join us this evening. And there may be some material that you may want to review. So does anybody have any concerns about that?
Chair, this is Commissioner Lascos, not on that subject, but is there any offering on affordable housing?
Oh, thank you so much for bringing that up. Mr. Paley, what do you propose on that?
What is the commission looking for?
Oh, we've been doing a minimum of 10. We have been having some considerations for even more.
Yeah.
So,
Do they consider senior housing affordable or no?
Mr. Rossetti is the,
No, Madam Chair, you're talking about 10%. So you would be talking about rounding, if you round up, you would be talking about 7, is what you're looking for here?
well, we're a starting point, that's for sure. So,
Yeah, I'm okay with 10%
mhm.
affordable.
Yeah, there has been some discussion among staff as to maybe it's because of the fact that we were looking at, we have some subcommittees that have been formed to look into accessory dwelling units and recreational cannabis and high density residential as to whether or not our minimum needs to be adjusted upward. So, but
Could
at this time. Go ahead, Mr. Panico.
Could we get a cross-section drawn through the building so we can see the relationships of the grades outside and the parking level inside and what the vertical component looks like?
Mhm.
Yeah, we can accommodate that.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Mr.
No, I was gonna say, if the hearing's gonna be kept open, I would hope as soon as possible, we could get any report from the engineer or the fire marshal. I mean, this has been around for a while, so that we know if we can address it appropriately at the continuation.
Mhm. Okay. All right, if there isn't any other comments for, questions for the applicant from the commission or from Mr. Panico?
Well, I just had one other, with the affordable, we're looking for all apartment types to be available, not just studios.
Okay.
So
So an
there's-
equal amount of 2 bedrooms, 1 bedroom.
Well, the way I would see it is
Proportion.
There is a
as an
certain-
apartment becomes available, that if you haven't built, you have, if a 2-bedroom becomes available and you have people on the waiting list and you haven't filled your quota, then that would be part.
That is something.
Yeah,
I can't
That's what
hear
Mr. Rossetti.
Commissioner Amato.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the same discussion we've had about the affordable, that all the apartment types could be
Right.
available. as possible.
Yeah, you cannot just say,
Apartments.
just the studios are gonna be as affordable.
Right. Well,
All right, so-
Usually when an affordable, usually, and this is, I think, part of the plan, when there is somebody in an affordable unit leaves, or somebody in when that happens, normally it's the next available apartment that opens up. So, I mean, again, you can certainly specify a mix, but I think a lot of it's controlled by whatever the plan and the affordable management system is.
Okay,
Which
so,
Shelton will eventually have to have at some point.
all right, I'd like to move on to the public portion, and we have 3 people that have signed up. You can come on up, one or two gentlemen, just scooch over a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you are a member of the public, you come on up to the seat and state your name and address. And you might want to spell your last name if it is unusual. So the first one I see here is Mike Pavia.
Correct.
Okay,
Okay, Mike Pavia, address is 400 Beaver Dam Road, Stratford. Here for the Beaver Dam Lake Association. I was, and real quickly, I heard the developer's lawyer talk about receiving a document from an engineer, and again, that's our engineer, Carl. We're a little bit late to the party. I didn't submit it within the 24-hour zone. So I would either like to be allowed to read Carl's comments into this thing, but if you're gonna keep this public hearing open, I would submit it through the proper
Yeah.
channels, and I won't bore you guys to
yeah,
death with
no, that would be fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and just real quickly, the association is in some ways relieved that a different development other than a gas station is being proposed for this property. So I think we can consent to that. And then the other thing that we shared these plans of our engineer with John. And it was an issue that came up when it was a gas station. And, just so we're aware, we're trying to protect our lake. We have stipulated agreements with the Homestead Village, Avalon Bay. So I'm going to go to Inland Wetlands tomorrow and visit with John and get those agreements. Our secretary's away. So I will submit them to give John an idea of what it is we're hoping for. It would mirror the agreements we got into perpetuity with Homestead, Avalon, and the new Little Barn place.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
I'll submit them through the proper
Okay,
channels.
Mr. Cook has retired as of the beginning of August or so.
Okay, his name's still on the website.
Yeah.
Congratulations, John.
He did like 36, 38 years.
Yeah, it was a
Ms.
long-
Castro
long time.
can direct you help you out at the beginning,
Okay,
okay? So,
I think that's it. There'll be another hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Pavia.
Yep, thank you.
next on the list is a Stephen Lawrence.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to
Mhm.
present our case here tonight. My name is Stephen Lawrence, and I am the managing partner for the GNL Huntington Point LLC, which owns the property just to the south,
And that address is?
1077 Bridgeport Avenue.
Mhm.
Two buildings there, one office building, two office buildings, really.
Okay,
My first question would be procedurally, I can read what we sent in an email, obviously not 24 hours before, but this afternoon, but in that it's being held open, would it automatically be considered, you don't need me to read it? I'll just
no,
give you a
it'll be
verbal-
uploaded to the website for
Okay,
all the commissioners to have access to.
so if you want me to give you a brief description
Sure.
of what my
Mhm.
case that I'm
Concerns.
talking about,
Yep.
that'd be great. In general, we're very much in favor of the project. I think it's great. Seems like a great developer, nice project, no complaints. Our one issue is, in the project they had before with the gas station and the rest of it,
Mhm.
there were a lot of traffic issues, but we did not complain or make a case because there were three entrances.
Mhm.
And we thought that was very, very important. The following reason, our entrance or exit is within about 40 feet of the entrance they're now suggesting.
Mhm.
And if it's one entrance, that's one thing. If there are three, if it's backed up, or if there's an issue, people have an option to go to the back to Huntington Road rather, or go out the other one that's further to the north. And our general issue is that with our driveway being right there, 40 some feet from their driveway, if two people are parallel looking out on Bridgeport Avenue, and both of them want to turn right and left, it's a crash waiting to happen in our humble
Mhm.
amateur opinion. We think it's an issue. So what had some conversations with the developer, and so far they've been very, very productive. One answer would be another entrance, another exit, as you suggested. The other one I think that would make a difference is if we could move the access 100 feet, and that's what our proposal suggests, the letter we put in, 100 feet north. It gives a little bit of separation to the two cars that are facing Bridgeport Avenue. When one sees the other one doing something, with a little bit of time to react, and it just, we think from our position, it's a much safer approach to the whole thing. So multiple accesses would be great, but I think we'd be fine with just getting the 100 feet of movement down the road.
Mhm.
Sir, if I remember, Huntington Point, it did have a back entrance exit in front. The back entrance to Huntington Street was blocked off, am I correct?
That's
You cannot
correct.
use it. You cannot use it at all at this point.
Well, I'll tell you why we don't, quite frankly, because people go zipping through.
Don't cut through. I know.
That's
that.
our only reason. We have no other reason than that.
Mhm.
And we just were concerned with safety in that regard.
Mhm.
I guess if we put a lot of pressure on Bridgeport Avenue, maybe we revisit opening it up. We'd rather not, but it's a possibility.
Mhm. Okay,
So that's our,
very good. All right, thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
thank you.
Okay. Next is Ken Dressel.
Good
Did I say your name
afternoon or
right?
early evening, or whatever it is. Yes, I'm Ken Dressel. I live at 586 Huntington Street. Lived there since November, and I'm here because my wife sent me down to come. So here I am. I've spoke with Mr. Payletta recently about, the change in the project and such, which is nice. But I just would like to make a point that we just recently purchased the property and moved in and found that after the fact that there had been a zoning change and proposals and a gas station going up and stuff like boom, boom, boom. There is only one residential property bordering the situation there. And there was no one at the time of the zoning change or anything to represent that property. So I don't really know what consideration people here gave towards the fact that there was a residential property next door. My concern is that I realize that's not a residential, should not have been residential zoning next door. It belongs being commercial. But at the same time, it's bordering up next to a residence that has privacy in the backyard and has a residential nature to it. And I would just hope that minimizing the impact on that privacy and residential nature would be taken in any type of development that would be put up there. And I would hope that realizing that there was no owner, that the owner was 100 years old in a nursing home at the time, that somebody would have thought in terms of what a rational, normal, reasonable person who lived in that residence might want. And
Are you the homeowner that's on the property that's now formerly of Mary Sokol? What's?
yes, that's
Okay,
right. Yeah.
that's it. Okay.
But my concern is that, that just that be maintained to all reasonable extent. Mr. Payette, assured me that, yes, he doesn't have a problem, putting up a privacy fence so there can be traffic back and forth, because there's only a aged, 50-year-old page, chain link fence that was there ever since the nursery built it, 70, 80 years ago. And there are some trees that buffer the zone, and he said that, he wants to maintain the large trees to do that, and also plant a secondary area of trees that would sort of fill in the area as best they could, tall trees. Those things, make me happy, but I would just like to, these things are happening. As far as the changing from a gas station to an apartment building, I don't see any problem from a homeowner's standpoint that neither make a great neighbor, but they say fences make good neighbors. But
Nice fences.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know how high a fence can be. I don't know if it's because it's commercial could be higher than what a
No.
residential fence could be, but but I would like, to just know that there'd be any reasonable, attempts to provide that. The entrance on Huntington Street, I like that is eliminated, and I understand how it might be a convenience to the, property owners go in and out, but I listen to horns honking all day of people pulling out. It's hard to see people whiz down that road, and they're constantly, it's hard to come out of isinglass. There's people always honking their horn because people pull out too soon, and everybody's aggravated because that's the beginning of their speedway. They like to, hit Huntington Street and fly down the road, and that's what they do when they get upset when somebody pulls out. And but all in all, certainly something commercial belongs there, and I suppose a apartment building in many ways is preferable to a gas station. So, basically, I don't have that concerns about a change in venue on the property. Alrighty?
Good. Thank you for coming on,
Okay.
Mr. Dressel.
Yep, thank you.
Welcome to the city. You're coming. All right, is there anyone else here in the auditorium that would like to address the commission about this application? If not, Ms. Castro, is there anybody on Zoom? Okay, and the name of the first person? And what's that phone number? 203-623-8823. All right, with the person who, they did a raise your hand? Okay, so the person who has raised their hand from phone number 203-623-8823, you have the floor, but we do need your name and address for the record. Is the person on mute at all? Okay. Person from 203-623-8823 participating by Zoom. If you'd like to address the commission on this application, please make sure that you are not on mute and you can proceed. We need your name and address for the record. Okay, last call. For the person from 203-623-8823. Oh, okay.
I must have forgot something.
Oh, all right. Mrs. Dressel, is that you? Are you trying to speak to the commission? Maybe not. Okay, let's just, for the sake of time, Ms. Castro, let's move on to anybody.
Next person is Eileen.
Okay, Eileen, and the last name, do you have? Or just identified as Eileen? Okay, second person is Eileen, and if you are ready to present, you can go ahead. We need your full name and address.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, my name is Eileen Champini. My address is 304 East Village Road in Shelton. And my interest in this property and this project is as a resident of Shelton. Attorney Thomas had mentioned earlier that when the gas station was being considered, that there was significant considerations towards the environment. But I am wondering if specifically for this project, if an environmental impact statement has been prepared and if there's been any consideration of wildlife impacts. Because I'm a bit familiar with the site, and I know that in the recent past, there's been quite a significant bat habitat on the site in some of the existing structures.
BAT?
BAT, yes, bats.
Okay. All right. Do you have any other questions? Because we go through all of the people that.
That
are
is my main
participating.
question. That is my
Okay.
question.
All right,
Thank
and
you.
Eileen, would you mind spelling your last name, please?
Yes, CIAMPINI.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the applicant and his attorney will address all the comments that we have after the public session. Anyone else, Ms. Castro?
I do have this call address.
Okay, that's 623-8823.
Listed by full name.
Okay, and what's the first name?
Paula.
Paula, okay. Paula Dressel?
Yes.
Okay.
Can
Go
you hear
ahead,
me?
yes, we can. State your name and address for the record, please.
I am Paula Dressel, 586 Huntington Street, Shelton. I'm sorry I couldn't make it in person, but I am definitely for an apartment complex rather than a gas station. I am the house Mary Sokolowski's. I also am the owner of that.
Okay.
That's all. I prefer that the Huntington Road is regulated a little bit with, I like that it's going to just be a breakaway for emergency if you need it.
Mhm.
That's all.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Castro, anybody else? Okay. All right, I will just throw it out to those who are participating on Zoom or by a phone link. If you would like to address the commission, you need to use the Zoom raise your hand feature or dial *9 to be recognized. If there's anyone participating, listening in via Zoom or by phone, if you'd like to address the commission, you need to use Zoom's raise your hand feature or dial *9. Okay, seeing that there is none, the applicant or his attorney like to respond to any of the comments?
I can, very, very quickly, obviously we'll, we have the reports, the public hearing is going to be kept open. With respect to Mr. Pavia's comment concerning the wetlands agreements, I do want to point out that this property contained no regulated area, so there was no issue with respect to wetlands on this property, but we are certainly willing to look at whatever agreements were executed. And as Alan Shepard said, we are engaging in BMP's best management practices with respect to drainage. With respect to Mr. Lawrence's comments, I would just call the attention again, and we're willing to discuss and look, again, it is important, that has to be dealt with the city engineer also as far as relocating it, but the much more highly trafficked, even though there were multiple entrances, the main entrance to the approved gas station, which is approved, was in the same location and was wide. And the traffic report of Craig Janey indicated that there would be no issues with respect to that. And that contained accident reports and accident data and everything like that. With respect to Mr. and Mrs. Dressel, I would point out that this commission was very concerned, regardless of the fact that no one from that property spoke up, but was very concerned. And the previous proposal did have a buffer, and my client is committed to providing a buffer and a privacy fence as appropriate for the Dressels. And as to Ms. Chiambi, we have no intention of doing an environmental impact statement, keeping in mind that, I mean, this is a developed piece of property. There may be bats. There was a very old unused greenhouse there, but this has already been approved. And if we were not before you, if we had a tenant, we would be before you with final site development plans for a gas station and convenience store. So there's no need for an environmental impact statement. But, again, certainly when the development takes place, the client will be concerned about any wildlife on the site. That's it.
Okay, Attorney Thomas, thank you. All right, seeing that we've gone through the public portion, there aren't any further comments from the applicant. And as I recommended that we leave the public hearing open, seeing that our administrator is not here this evening, is there a motion to continue the public hearing?
I'll make the motion. Continue.
Okay, there's a motion from Commissioner Kelly to continue the public hearing.
I'll
And
second
the
it,
sec-
Commissioner Lascos.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly and Commissioner Lascos is the second. Any discussion? Okay, so on the motion to continue the public hearing made by Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Lascos, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Alternate Commissioner Onofrio?
Aye.
And is Commissioner Ticky back with us? I know he had to step out. Has he been promoted to a panelist?
Yeah, no, he's logged in, just muted himself.
Oh, okay, so he's still, all right, but we have a quorum for that, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 5. Motion to continue is approved by vote of 5-0. All right, so the continuation of this public hearing will be on the agenda of the upcoming meeting. Second public hearing is for application 2220. Good evening, thank you, you're welcome. Commissioner Mata, would you please read the legal notice for the second public hearing?
Initiation of application 22-20, Dominic Thomas for Kirchhoff Acquisitions LLC at 915-917 Bridgeport Avenue, Assessors Map 8, Lot 13, on 3.11 acres in the OPD zone for a planned development district for a self-storage facility, business and professional offices, warehousing and distribution facility with business offices. The footprint of the proposed development remains predominantly the same. Property is generally bounded as follows: northerly by 100 Avalon Drive, easterly by 901 Bridgeport Avenue, southerly by Bridgeport Avenue, westerly by 945 Bridgeport Avenue.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Amato. This application was accepted for review on July 12th of this year, posted on the city's website. Is the application, permission letter from the owner, statement of uses and standards, site plans, and an architectural plan. Ms. Castro, were any other reports, materials, or correspondence received within the time period for this application that needs to be acknowledged? No, there are not. Okay, is the applicant present?
Yes, Attorney Dominic Thomas representing the applicant. I will let Alexandra know that Manny Silva and John Hettinger need to be admitted as panelists.
Sure. And in the meantime, while that's happening, again, this particular application number was incorrect on the legal notice. The correct number is 2220, and it does appear correct on the city's website.
Okay, I think we're, Madam Chairman, am I set to go or?
Ms. Castro, we're set? Okay. Yep, they're both here. So go ahead, Attorney Thomas.
Thank you very much, Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen and Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut, representing the applicant. As in the previous application, I will note for the record that the notices and signed posting photos are filed and I believe uploaded on the website. This property, 915-917 Bridgeport Avenue, some of you may know it as the Image Graphics Building. It's gone through many different uses in the past. It is an office building in the past, and Manny is screen sharing right now and showing you the location. It is right at exit 11 off the southbound Route 8, and it is served by a traffic light over Avalon Drive, which goes to the back of the property. This is an application for a plan development district for initial concept development plans and for final site development plans. The proposal is to expand the building, as you will see, substantially. It's for climate controlled, secure self-storage. These will be all inside units. And in the rear portion of the building, the expansion will take place over the front. In the rear portion of the building, the remaining tenants will be occupying that rear portion of the building. As a result, in the PDD, your proposed parking ratio is similar to what you've done for all other self-storage, which is 1 per 100 units. And in addition to that, we have the regular proposal for office for the 12,000 square feet of office. And actually it's office and daycare that is in the back. We will state for the record that in the future, as the tenants leave the rear, my client may very well be coming back in to turn the 12,000 square feet in the back to climate controlled self-storage also. There is obviously, as you can see on this site, abundant parking. There will be adding, I believe, 2 floors and expand the footprint, as you will see from our development. The use, and you've just had one use down the other end of Bridgeport Avenue. The use is in great demand for a couple of reasons, and Mr. Hettinger will probably elaborate on this more, but between apartments and businesses wanting to save on square footage and not having storage on site, it has become great demand, especially for that which is secure and climate controlled. And as we said, this will be one, as you will see, that will have no exterior garage door units. Obviously, this is a very low traffic generator. As you know, in the past, even with the office, you do have the apartments in the back, but you have the traffic light at the corner. So before we get to the engineering plans, just to give you a little bit of detail about the applicant and their plans, and in addition to that, their other some of their other projects, I would turn it over to John Hettinger of the applicant, Kirchhoff Acquisitions.
Thank you, Dominic, and thank you to the commission for allowing us to be here this evening and for considering this project. My name is John Hettinger, 45 Eastdale Avenue North, Poughkeepsie, New York. Our company, Kirchhoff, is a Hudson Valley-based real estate investment firm which specializes in self-storage, multifamily, medical office, and student housing assets. If we are permitted the opportunity to proceed with this project, it will be our 11th self-storage facility when it's completed, all of which are managed by Extra Space Storage and range geographically from the Southeast to the Midwest, to New York, and to New England. Our manager, Extra Space Storage, is a publicly traded real estate investment trust and is the largest third-party self-storage manager in the industry, operating over 1,700 facilities in 40 states, Washington, D.C., and Puerto Rico. Engaging Extra Space allows us to benefit from their scale and expertise with respect to customer acquisition, facility management, marketing, pricing, and brand recognition, while we are freed up to identify attractive markets like Shelton that we want to make long-term investments into, which, as Dominic mentioned, we believe is meaningfully undersupplied with high-quality self-storage, and we can focus on managing the development process. Extra Space currently operates in Stratford, Bridgeport, and Orange, so their presence in this market and general vicinity is already established. A manager will be on site full-time at this facility, but will not reside there. Office hours will typically be Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., Saturday 9 to 5:30, and limited on Sunday, with gate hours from 6 to 10 for existing customers. Dominic, would it make sense to run through architecturally anything at this
Well,
point?
I didn't know whether you wanted to, hopefully, if I can get on, hopefully show the commission, if I can screen share here, show the commission some of the your recent proposals, if you wanted to go over them, or.
Absolutely. This is just an illustration of some of our prior work. I think quote unquote self-storage can connote very different things for different people. So Dominic was kind enough to just introduce a sample of some of our completed projects recently. This is a facility in Port St. Lucie, Florida. That's a facility in West Nyack, New York, about 2 miles west of the Tappan Zee Bridge, right on the New York State Thruway. That is in Fort Myers, Florida. Again, Nyack, Miami, Florida, and Tallinn, Connecticut, right on the Vernon-Tallinn line. And not dissimilar to the proposed project on Bridgeport Avenue, this was an existing building that really wasn't particularly functional for any use or derivative use for which it was originally intended. We were able to acquire it, go through a very similar process to what we are endeavoring to do in Shelton, breathe new life into the building, and create a very nice asset that Tallinn can be proud of for years to come.
Okay, John, I'm going to suggest, I think that possibly we can go, so that they can understand better, go to Manny with the engineering, so they can see the footprint and the expansions, and then we can come back to the elevations and the renderings. And I know
Attorney
Manny
Tom?
likes to, yes, I'm sorry.
Before we recognize Mr. Silva, Mr. Hettinger, would you just do us a favor and spell your last name for the record?
Absolutely. It's Hettinger.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Silva.
Good evening, Manny Silva from Rose Tizo and Company, the civil engineer for the project. As Attorney Dominic Thomas had stated, the project is here in the southern portion of the town near exit 11 off of Route 8. Just to show you kind of the existing conditions on the survey, the building is situated in the center of the building, center of the site, with parking all around the building. We're going to preserve that, most of it. And what you're going to see is what we're proposing is putting an addition, a 3-story addition above 1 story for this portion of the building here. And then we are going to take over some parking, which the site will be well over parked, and make a 4-story addition to this side of the building here. As Mr. Dominic Thomas had stated, this portion here in the back of the building is a 1-story portion of the building that will remain. Half of it will be a daycare center. The other half, I believe, will be a dentist. The access to the site will be a 1-way entrance here off of Bridgeport Avenue. Then you could circulate here 2-way, and then there'll be a controlled fence here for security reasons. not to allow anyone to come in to the back of the property, where the loading and unloading of the self-storage portion of the building will be on a ramp here. So you pull in, the gate will close behind you, you'll be able to unload, and then bring everything up to the ramp and then into the building itself. We do have some handicap visitor spaces here in the front. You can also access through the front door here if you're just walking in. Again, we're going to eliminate this field of parking to add a building addition. And then there will be parking here. That's two-way parking for any other use. Also, we have a loading and unloading access way here on this side of the building for, garbage and things of that nature that might need boxes. Mostly that comes out of this will be used boxes. And then the exit to site, you can enter and exit the site from Avalon Drive, which is a controlled intersection here with a light. Again, this use, which will be the majority of the property after it's been constructed, self-storage does not generate a whole lot of traffic. In fact, it's once you talk about in the peak hour, it's nearly nothing. So we'll talk about the engineering plan next. The site itself is a generally impervious pavement with building. Since we're just taking some impervious parking and adding a building to it, there is no increase in impervious surfaces. In fact, it's a decrease because we are going to create some landscaping around here where there was pavement at one time. So all we have to do here drainage wise is to add a couple catch basins here and here to kind of catch some low spots that are now created that'll be blocked off by the addition of the building. That will then connect into an existing stormwater system that's on site currently, and that discharges as an existing drainage system into the brook here that comes around our property from the Avalon project and Trap Falls Reservoir. So basically there's no real grading on the site per se, except for we're going to add this addition here and flatten this out. Otherwise we'll have our security gates here. And I'll just go on to the soil erosion control. Soil erosion control basically is to control any kind of sediment or soil from discharging while we're doing construction, while we rip up some of this pavement and work on this addition. So we have a perimeter silt fence in the areas of disturbance. We have a anti-tracking pad, which is going to be our main construction entrance coming in and out. And this is to knock off any mud or dirt that's on the wheels of the construction vehicles as they come out, so it doesn't track it into the city right of way, and keep that on site. Also, we'll put silt sacks on our catch basins that are within our disturbed area envelope. And that's to kind of, while it rains during construction, any mud or sediments will get caught in that silt sack and not transport into the brook or off site. Then once the site is stabilized and paved, we can take those silt sacks out, and then the structures will operate as brand new, clean with no construction materials inside of them. So that's the soil erosion control plan. Basically, this is the silt sack details. I think you've all seen these before. Soil erosion control are basically our silt fence barriers. We have a reinforced hay bale silt fence, our anti-tracking pad detail. And this is our construction sequencing and how to deal with best management practices during construction. Our planting plan is pretty minimal. Like I said, we have a new landscaping area here. So we've added some pin oaks, rhododendrons, and some tall grasses here as perimeter landscaping. And then we have that one shade tree here where there was a driveway. The rest of the property is landscaped somewhat. We're going to protect those trees on site, all those existing, especially here where there's a good amount of vegetation here in the front of the property on Bridgeport Avenue. Again, here's our details. We're going to have sidewalks with handicap ramps. Our new accessible spaces will have the new accessible parking symbol We like to call them Speedy. We have our details for new catch basins that are going in. And all our new basins and the existing basins will have hooded outlets to help with water quality by not allowing floatables like oils, bottles, things of that nature from leaving the catch basin itself and going into the brook, the adjacent brook. So if that's that's basically the site plans. If there's any questions, I'll just turn it over to Dominic for the architectural details.
I do have a question. What is, once you go through the security gate on the right side and you have the ramp, is that sufficient for only one vehicle at a time?
No, I mean, when you come in, you're going to come in and you have these parking spaces here. I believe I have them counted here on the, there's nine parking spaces available here to park, and then bring what you need to bring in up the ramp and into the storage facility. So it's not like you stop here in the middle of the aisle. You're supposed to pull off to one of these spaces and then bring your stuff in. And then there's another.
Your vehicle, you don't expect to have the vehicles backing up or pulling up that ramp at all?
No, I don't. That isn't not what this is for here. I think there's an opportunity for that on this side here, which is like a loading dock.
Okay, so that's just not dedicated to garbage pickup or something?
No, it's
Okay.
very, I mean, the tenants in the back have access to this loading dock area too. So it's like a multi-use loading dock area.
Okay, and then there's also in the front where the handicap parking spaces are, people can bring things in through a front door?
Yeah, so I'm gonna cheat a little bit and go into the architectural plans here. And I don't know if this is yeah, there should be an access door in the front of the building also, but I'll have the appropriate person talk about that.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What about rubbish disposal?
So we envision that being here at this loading dock area, which is going to be mostly cardboard. So it's going to have a cardboard compactor somewhere, and then they'll be able to pick that up from this loading dock
Can you
area.
fill us in with that detail though, so we don't leave it up in the air?
John, can you comment on any of that, respect to that?
What I will say is
Sir, identify yourself for the record, please.
Apologies, John Hettinger, applicant.
Okay.
All of our dumpsters at every facility are private. They are not meant for people to leave their trash to the extent that this is not a trash generative use necessarily. People bring their stuff, they store it, they bring it home. It's not a place where we expect a large volume of trash to be generated, as that is the case at all of our other facilities. So the store itself and the site itself will maintain dumpsters. Those dumpsters will be secured and locked and not there for dumping by customers.
So it's a matter of if somebody brings in a small truckload of material, these are all boxed items that they're going to stack in a storage unit. They're not going to be unpacking them for any reason, I would imagine.
Correct.
So you're not generating trash that way.
That is correct, Madam Chair.
But if that's a need, are they just going to use somebody else's dumpster?
They're responsible for removing from the site what they bring to the site. We have never encountered this as an issue anywhere. I mean, the sort of stock and trade of this use.
No, but you're sharing your site with some other private tenants.
Correct.
So what's the accommodation for the private tenants? Trash disposal. Can somebody respond to that? What is the accommodation for private tenants trash disposal?
So this is Manny Silva again. I believe, at least from my understanding, the dumpsters will be in here, and then they'll have a kind of an enclosure. I'm just trying to see if there was any kind of detail on that, but I don't think there's one right now.
I don't know if there's any any dumpsters there right now for the tenants that are there right now. I'm not sure. The tenants are responsible for their own trash disposal.
Yeah, but we don't want them calling for a dumpster and they come and drop it in the middle of the parking lot.
No, they will not be able to do that. It's not, they're not allowed to do that.
Yeah.
All right, I'm seeing that this public hearing is going to be left open. I would appreciate if the
there's
applicant can confirm what the situation is by the time it appears on the next agenda. And you were going to say, Mr. Silva?
I'm just looking here at the aerial photo. There's a concrete pad here, and it looks like there might be a dumpster here already.
Sure looks
on the
like
corner.
one.
Yeah. So I think that's where the rear tenants have them right now, but we can discuss about where if we want to relocate that or if that's going to stay there.
Yeah, and we also would like to see it enclosed.
Right. I
All
imagine.
right, so verify by the next time it's on the agenda as to how the trash will be handled.
Yep.
Okay. All right, what's next that you'd like to comment on?
Well, if there are no more questions for Manny, I can bring up the engineering and have the elevations and have John talk about the elevations of the proposed building, and then we have a couple of renderings from the street. John, do you want to speak to the elevations?
Absolutely. So as Manny mentioned, the building currently is about.
John, if you could hold on just a minute, Commissioner Amato had a question.
Yeah. This application says it's self-storage facility, business and professional offices, warehousing and distribution facility with business offices. I don't quite understand what we're talking about. And then these tenants, the daycare and the dentist, those are current tenants?
Current, yeah.
So we're not looking at that at all in terms of this.
No, Mr. Attorney Thomas, what Commissioner Amato was doing was reading from the legal notice as to the description of the project.
Okay. Again, I didn't draft the proposal of the proposal in the statement of uses and standards. Okay, is
also on the agenda. I think it's pretty much consistent with what it says on the agenda. It's for PDD for self-storage facility, business and professional offices, warehousing and distribution facility.
I don't know where warehousing, I don't know where, I have no idea where warehousing and distribution, it's not in, I don't believe it's in the application, or I don't believe it's in the
statement of uses.
It's in the statement of uses. The statement of uses says the existing structure on the site will remain with office and personal services uses and is partially vacant. The existing, the office and personal services will be relocated. The remaining portion of the existing building will have 3 additional floors added, total square footage for office and personal service uses, and for self-storage, and it's climate controlled, secure self-storage with 770 plus or minus units. There's no mention of wholesale and
warehousing.
There's no mention in the permitted uses of wholesale, so I have no idea where that came from.
Okay, we will note for the record that warehousing and distribution facility, as mentioned in the agenda description and in the legal notice, should be deleted.
Right. Yeah, it's not part of the application or the permitted uses. The permitted uses are self-storage facility for commercial and residential storage, business and professional office, child and adult daycare and preschool services is licensed by the state of Connecticut. Those are the only uses.
Okay.
Okay, so the daycare and the dentist are in an existing building that's going to be unchanged. Is that?
I believe they are already located in that location. Possibly John Hettinger could comment on that.
I would be happy to. Just to clarify, it's a child daycare and an adult daycare. There is no dentist. And they are both current tenants in the building. The child daycare is in the process of being relocated to the rear portion by the existing owner, current owner. Their lease remains in place until July of 2024. The adult daycare lease remains in place until March of 2027. And as Attorney Thomas mentioned, we are contemplating at this time, ultimately making this a pure play self-storage facility, pursuant to which, when those leases run out, we would seek to convert that rear portion, maintaining one level, to a self-storage facility. So those are existing tenants that will either stay in place or are in the process of being relocated within the building now, the uses of which are accurately portrayed in item 5 of Attorney Thomas's PDD.
Okay. Does that help, Commissioner Moore?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
is anything in terms of the traffic pattern affecting those tenants, the kids drop off, the adult daycare, anything like changing?
Okay, I just would like to know, and I think I heard the question. It's very difficult, or at least for me, to hear Commissioner Maddow when she speaks. But I think she was talking about the traffic pattern for the office tenants. They would be entering off of Avalon Drive, whatever it's called, and turn to the left, and their parking would be to the left. There's an abundance of parking for both of those uses. They're both daycare type uses. There's an abundance of parking to the left. I can go back to the, hold on, the site plan. This parking here that's over in this area here would be for the office use. The office, as you was here explained, the office for the self-storage is in the front of the building, and John can go into more detail about it. And plus, again, you have way over the amount of parking that would be needed. But remember, everything's interior, so you have an abundance of spaces here, here, and here. If anybody needed, which I don't know why they would, but the office parking for the daycare is over in this area.
I'm just wondering about drop off and pick up, if that's going to change for those type of tenants. Is there any issue created by this change?
I'm not sure, John, I don't know if you can comment on that, or we can certainly address it, with respect to the, I'm not sure where the entrance doors are, so.
Sure, if I may, the youth daycare will maintain multiple entrances. One sort of in the area that Manny was pointing out earlier, where the building sort of notches on the west side, exactly right there where that cursor is. And then both the youth daycare and the adult daycare have entrances on the north side of the building as well. So kind of right where Attorney, the side that is abutting where the steep slope goes up the hill towards the apartments, kind of in the middle of exactly, in the middle of the rear. Both of those entrances have a minimal footpath from the ample parking that Attorney Thomas mentioned earlier. So while the ingress may change for the adult daycare following the installation of the gate, the security gate for the storage tenants, they will have ample parking, very sort of prescribed ingress and egress, and minimal footsteps to their entrance.
So are you saying, John, on the left side where the parking is, along to the back where it says concrete ramp, that is a walkway to enter the building from the back, but there's also a way for people to park on the left side and walk to that notched area to access the building?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then on the right side is another entrance, and there's parking that's adjacent to it, and a way to walk to the doorway without walking in traffic as well.
I'm not certain I understood that last question, just given the.
On the right side where there's parking and the ramp was pointed out by Mr. Silva.
Yes, ma'am.
That if anybody had to use the entrance on the right side, there is a way for them to park with that in an area where they would not have to, they would have some kind of sidewalk system to get to the door.
Correct, provided they would have access to park in there, provided they were an existing storage tenant.
Yep.
And that would enable them to get through, if you can see near the ADA parking spot that's right there, there's a little square that's called out, and that is a keypad, so that would enable the gate to lift. An existing customer could securely park, load and unload their equipment, use the ADA compliant ramp walkway to get into the storage portion of the building and access it that way. Another storage customer could also access it from the other side, again, in the area that's sort of adjacent to where pieces of the puzzle, the child daycare could access it. They could also access it there via a covered entryway.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Mata.
Well, I don't know that it's maybe more of the landlord's problem, but with adult daycare, people, you need to have an area where people can pull off and assist those people in and out of the building with little kids.
Mm-hmm.
You need,
Yeah,
I mean, this parking or having a little walkway is not gonna cut it. For
What are they doing now?
how are they accessing the building now? Are they only pulling it to parking spaces and getting in there on their own? Are the children walk to the door?
So
Are the adults
this
walk
is
to the
Manny
door?
Silva from Rostizo. With daycare centers, there's no longer any like drop off areas. I mean, how they normally work is the parents pull into a parking space and they bring their kid into the school and they sign them in, or they check them in. There's no longer this thing where it's like a elementary school drop off where they just pull up to a drop off and they just let the kid out.
Where is that entry?
That entry is here. I mean, it's where
Where?
it says, I know you can't see what I'm pointing to,
Okay.
but it's in that notched area. There's a sidewalk that says, and then it goes to where it says sill 241. So
It
they
looks like a
basically come to
play
that
yard
point.
enclosure.
Yeah. So we're going to have to deal with we'll detail how
Yeah, because you know,
dumpster thing's gonna
they're
be.
part of your PDD.
Right. So as to answer the question about circulation, how people get dropped off for the daycare, they pull into the spaces and they get walked into the building. And then they come back out and they go back, the parents go in their car or their guardian or whoever, and they leave the site. So it's not like an elementary school where you have like this area in the front that everybody just pulls up in a line and they drop off their kids in rows. So that's not how daycares work really. Now with the security issues, everybody gets checked into a computer from with their parent.
maybe a little more concerned about the seniors.
I just can't hear.
How about for the adults?
Daycare, I think even more concerning to make sure that it's.
I think even more so with the adult daycare, you would have someone that escorts them in. So.
From not far.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. Yeah, again, there's that area. There's more than enough. I mean, the whole site has 79 spaces. I mean,
Not worried about
that whole area there, I think has just in that area has 17 plus 12 plus 4. So that's.
Well, the concern is not the amount of parking, it's the accessibility to the building and the proximity to the building.
Correct. So I think that as of today, that's how they access the exist. If you look at the existing site plan or the survey, that's exactly how they access it today. So the parking and access to the entrances do not get any further with the new proposal than they did in the existing condition.
I think we would feel more comfortable if there is some kind of confirmation from the two tenants that their accessibility is appropriate. And if it's not appropriate, what measures will the applicant make to rectify the situation?
Yeah, I think they should identify the points of entry and exit from the building so we can see how things flow.
Mm-hmm.
And there's plenty of room if you had to eliminate some parking spaces in order to do something else. That's available as well, you know.
People are going to be dealing with wheelchairs and
Mm-hmm.
oxygen tanks and all sorts of stuff. It's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's not make it any harder than it has to be. So, okay, anything else, Commissioner Mono?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. And before we get into the architecturals, any other comments, Mr. Panico?
No, not at this time.
And, all right, so Attorney Thomas, could you move forward with whoever is going to be doing the architecturals?
And yeah, John was going to discuss the architecturals.
Okay.
Thank you. So as was mentioned earlier, the building in its current condition is approximately 32,000 square feet and comprises, it's on one level, comprises roughly a 20,000 square foot square with a 12,000 square foot rectangle, if you will, abutted behind it. And our development plan is to take the 20,000 square foot square portion in front, bump it out by 6,000 feet, and add 3 stories on top of the existing footprint and 4 in total to create ultimately a 4-story and with a 1-story rear, 115,000 square foot building. Architecturally, the building will present, cleanly and attractively with the facade comprising primarily a mix of grays and whites with green accents, all of which are consistent with the Extra Space brand. The facade on the upper floors primarily comprises insulated metal panels, which run vertically, horizontal bars to soften the scale, and the ground floor will remain as is or have split face block, all of which will be freshly painted. Ample glazing has been incorporated throughout, as has a cantilevered canopy around the office, both of which were either added or increased following our work session back in March. The facility will be ADA accessible. We use Stanley sliding glass doors at the primary customer entry and exits. We incorporate security keypads at all primary access points for existing customers, as well as cameras and speakers throughout the interior of the project. As Attorney Thomas mentioned, all of the storage is interior and climate controlled. There are no drive-up units contemplated. And overall, the project will be well lit, safe, and secure, which is part and parcel of our development approach for storage globally. As Manny mentioned, we intend to preserve the trees and to reuse the existing monument sign infrastructure along Bridgeport Avenue. And as I mentioned earlier, over time, we do anticipate that this will be a pure play self-storage facility.
I'm scrolling through the floor plan and the elevations. We do have, and this is the office elevation. I don't know if anybody, and I want to make sure the elevations are correct with respect to, John, this is the front, this is the elevation facing Bridgeport Avenue?
Correct.
Okay. And this is where the office is located, I believe.
That's correct. Yep.
Is the existing first floor going to be blended somehow, or is it going to look like new construction sitting on top of something old?
No, it will be blended. That first floor facade will be painted that Argos gray so that it is all sort of fresh and new.
Yeah, we have, if you can, we have some elevations from the street to, elevations to reflect how it's going to look from Bridgeport Avenue.
Mhm.
This is the one-way entrance. As you can see, it will be blended in to the existing, to the addition. This is the existing building.
Do you have a view that would show straight down the side from the entrance driveway?
Not down this side.
Right, yeah.
No,
the right side.
no, we have just shows the left side more, the office corner, awnings and everything.
Okay. Is that it for the architecturals?
Excuse me?
Is that it for the architecturals?
Yes, that's it for the architecturals.
Any questions from the commission?
Keeping this open.
Yeah, we have to go public next. Mr. Panico, how about you? Anything that you want to?
I just want to make sure that we've correctly addressed in sufficient detail the exterior siding materials, et cetera. And I think after listening to the explanation tonight, I'll go back and look at the architecturals one more time. But I was having difficulty trying to relate the new to the old. This certainly looks attractive enough. I want to make sure that that's really what's reflected.
Okay.
Well,
I just-
if the public hearings supposed to be kept open, we'll get a little more detail for you on the materials. Would that be helpful? Tony?
Yes, it would,
Definitely.
especially the Bridgeport Avenue elevation.
Yeah, while there is a chart on a drawing A3.0 that shows extra space colors, Tony is correct in going back and confirming how the exterior is going to be addressed.
Okay,
Okay. Is that it for your presentation, Attorney Thomas?
that is it for the presentation, yes.
Okay, so we will move to the public portion, and we have a person has signed up here in the auditorium, and that's Mr. Mike Pavia.
And Mike Pavia, 400 Beaver Dam Road, Stratford, Connecticut. I know this facility as the old Image Graphics building, and it's been a source of concern of ours for many, many years, as there's nothing in place today to retain stormwater, processes
okay.
stormwater. So I just got into these plans today, sent them to our engineer, Carl. I do see in some of the paperwork, they have new catch basins and hooded drains, and I'll refer to my engineer to review that and come back to us. I kind of understand there's going to be another public hearing.
Yes.
And so we'll take that under advisement. And I do think that, you know, the existing drainage on the site was talked about today. And so I think what Carl's going to do is maybe make some suggestions that brings the existing drainage up to the 2022 standards. Similarly to what we've done at Avalon, Homestead, and Little Barn, and what we're trying to get to with the Langanke development. So if we can just best practices, I've heard that term used. So that would be our concern, is that, you know, there's an opportunity there for the water that enters that stream to be better tomorrow than it is today as a result of this.
And that's the stream that drains into Beaver Dam. Okay, interesting. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Pavia. Is there anybody else here in the
So
auditorium?
there's going to be another hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Anybody else in the auditorium that wish to comment on this particular application? Ms. Castro, is there anybody from Zoom? If there's anyone listening in by Zoom or by phone, if you'd like to comment on this application, please use Zoom's raise your hand feature or dial *9 on your phone. Okay, anyone participating by Zoom, raise your hand or use *9 on your phone if using a phone connection. Nobody else? Okay. All right, so Mr. Attorney Thomas, rather, do you want to respond to Mr. Pavia?
Again, you know, we will certainly view, hopefully we'll get it in before the public hearing. Also, I make the same request. This application has been around for a while. We have nothing from the city engineer or from the
Fire Marshal?
or from the fire marshal. We would hope we would have those reports as soon as possible.
Okay. All right, very good. So seeing that we've gone through all the discussion, and as Mr. Rossetti is not here with us this evening, is there anyone on the commission who'd like to make a motion to continue the public hearing? Okay, there is a motion from Commissioner Onofrio to continue the public
Commissioner
hearing.
Laskos, I'll second it.
Very good. So on the motion from Commissioner Onofrio, seconded by Commissioner Laskos, do a roll call. Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos,
Aye.
Commissioner Onofrio,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So the motion to continue public hearing passes 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, the final agenda items are approval of minutes, and the first is approval of the August 9th, 2022 meeting minutes. In addition to comments received from Commissioner Parkins earlier today, she's unable to be here with us this evening, but these minutes were tabled at our last meeting because she had concern that something was not stated properly. So before I read that, is there any other commissioner has any changes or comments about the way August 9th minutes appear? Okay, so I'll read for the record. Commissioner Parkins would like the minutes to be amended to include the following. Commissioner Parkins reminded the commissioners applications for PDDs can be denied. We can deny without prejudice and let things settle down until the end of the moratorium. She then suggested that the commission can deny without prejudice and have the applicants come back, and we can waive the fees so they don't pay the fees over again. We have not even begun discussing the moratorium because we are so busy processing applications. One thing she feels that the commission should consider is asking for 20% instead of 10% for affordable housing from the developers in order to meet the Connecticut General Statute 8-30G requirement. Mr. Panico said, quote, once we fulfill our obligations on things that have been in pipeline for months, then we can slow the pipeline down, close quote. So that would be substitution for application 2216, item E. The sixth paragraph would be eliminated and this new language be put in instead. All right, seeing that there are no other comments from the commission, is there anyone that would like to make a motion to approve the minutes for August 9th?
I'll make the motion to approve those minutes.
Okay, Commissioner Motto has made the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Kelly has seconded. So on the roll call, Commissioner Lascos,
Aye.
Commissioner Onofrio.
I'd like to abstain since I wasn't at this meeting.
Sure, that's fine. Abstain. Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Tiki.
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Motion to approve the August 9th minutes has passed with a vote of 5-0-1. All right, next is approval of the August 17th minutes. Does anybody have any comments or corrections for that set of minutes? Okay, any commissioner participating remotely?
No comments, but I was absent, so I will be abstaining from a vote on that meeting.
All right, I will so note it when I do the vote. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the August 17th minutes?
I'll make the motion to approve.
All right, motion to approve from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Commissioner Motto. So on a roll call, Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos, you're abstaining? Just acknowledge that.
Correct.
Okay. Commissioner Tiki.
I'm abstaining. I was absent.
Okay. Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Onofrio,
I need to abstain as well.
abstaining
I was
as
sipping
well.
wine in Italy at that time.
Yeah, and the chair also votes aye. However, the motion to approve failed to pass because we have a vote of 3-0-3. So these will be on the agenda of an upcoming meeting. So, okay. All right. So seeing that there's no other item on the agenda, the chair will declare that this evening's meeting is adjourned as of 8:20